very welcome back to the show now. Haemochromatosis is a condition where the body contains too much iron. This is usually because of an inherited gene from both parents that causes you to absorb excess amounts of iron from food. It's particularly prevalent amongst Irish people. Now, my next guest's husband sadly passed away from the condition 20 years ago, and since then her passion for spreading awareness has grown. Margaret, Mullett, you were very welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, tell us what exactly is haemochromatosis and how would you know you have it?
Well, haemochromatosis is an iron overload disorder and it's genetic. And people with haemochromatosis keep absorbing iron even when they have already got surplus iron. And to have haemochromatosis, one gets a gene from both parents, not just one parent. And it can be very serious if you're not diagnosed in time. Early diagnosis is crucial because the iron will do a lot of damage if you're not diagnosed in time.
And where does the iron, the excess iron, actually go to within the body?
Yes, Elaine, it goes to the liver and it can cause cirrhosis of the liver. It goes to the heart and it can cause irregular heartbeat. It goes to the pancreas and it can cause diabetes, and it can also cause lack of sex drive, impotence. It can cause diabetes. It goes to the pancreas and damages the pancreas. So it can do incredible damage.
Yeah.
And people, can get pains in their joints a lot.
And I know, unfortunately, within my family, a lot of them wouldn't have been aware of until a post-mortem had been carried out, particularly with men. With women, because we have menses, we have our period, we can get rid of our excess iron quite easily, but with men, they don't have that problem. Now, your husband was quite young when he was afflicted by haemochromatosis.
Yes.
And you found out he passed away. Can you tell us that story, please?
Yes, I will, certainly. My husband was George Mullett, and he worked as a psychiatrist in St. James's and St. Pat's. And he would fall asleep at night, maybe watching the television, but we thought that's because he was working hard. But he was a very fit man, and he had no idea, I think, that he had haemochromatosis, though he did have an irregular heartbeat, and for a few years before that, and unfortunately he wasn't picked up in time. The haemochromatosis had gone to his heart, and he died 6 weeks after being diagnosed, awaiting a heart transplant.
That must have been a terrible, terrible shock to you and your family.
Well, it was a terrible shock because he was just a fantastic husband and a great father, and a lovely man, I have to say. And I must say I'm very glad of the opportunity to talk a little bit about him just now, because it'll be 20 years next week since he died.
I'm so sorry. It must be a very poignant time for you as well. But what you have done for haemochromatosis awareness since then has been absolutely amazing. I believe your nickname was the Iron Lady at one point.
Oh yes. I used to teach chemistry and biology in an all-boys school, Coloshtana, and some great past pupils have gone by from there. But some of them used to call me Maggie the Iron Lady. I taught chemistry and biology, so I didn't realise that I would eventually turn into the Iron Lady.
Well, you're not like the other one, thankfully.
A few of them are now journalists, and they sometimes get me a bit of media coverage.
Oh, but now, not only did your husband pass away from, but obviously it's important to get tested, particularly if you're in Ireland. You too have haemochromatosis.
Yes. People ask me if I was shocked when my 5 children turned out to have haemochromatosis. I was actually more shocked when I found out that I had it myself, because I had heard it was hereditary, so I wouldn't have been that amazed if the children had it, but I was completely shocked that I had it as well.
And what do you have to do to manage your symptoms, or do you have symptoms now?
Yes, I would have. I'd say I would have had arthritis, and definitely. But when I was younger, I was always being given iron by my father, who was a country GP, and anyone who was tired were given iron injections. So I was given a lot of iron, as were a lot of people in those days if they went to the doctor and said they were tired. And chronic fatigue is one of the big symptoms of hemochromatosis.
And I suppose for a lot of people, they might put that down to stress, maybe lack of vitamins, etc. and so forth. How do you test for hemochromatosis?
Yes, thanks, Elaine. That's interesting. You do two simple blood tests. One is called ferritin. It's the stored iron in your body. And the other one is called transferrin saturation. It's the iron that goes transported around your body. Now, if both of those are raised, there's a very good probability that you'll have hemochromatosis. The ferritin could be raised now for other reasons, if you had a fatty liver, or if you'd been drinking a bit too much, or you had an infection. But if the two are raised, ferritin and transferrin saturation, then it's very likely that you have hemochromatosis, and you then get a genetic test.
Yeah, and the genetic test will show affirmatively.
Yeah, you get it done, the ferritin and the transferrin saturation by your GP, and then he'll probably send away, or you can contact maybe one of the hospitals and you'll get the genetic test done. But if you have one gene from one parent, you don't have hemochromatosis, you're said to be a carrier. The thing is that if two carriers get married, there's a chance, 25% chance, that the offspring would have hemochromatosis. But in the case of my family, I had the two genes, my husband had the two genes, so all five have hemochromatosis.
And I suppose because we're an island nation as well, things like hemochromatosis, cystic fibrosis, they're a lot more prevalent in our population than they would be if we had a wider, like a more open borders, I suppose.
Yeah, that's very definite. Hemochromatosis is more common in Ireland than anywhere in the world. 1 in 83 people are predisposed to have the two genes. 1 in 5 Irish people carry one gene. And of course it is, as you said, because we've been all intermarrying from the same gene pool for years. And that's why it's so common. They also think maybe that it might have been a useful mutation at the time of the famine, when iron was in short supply.
Yeah, but how do you actually treat hemochromatosis now if you have it? Does it always need treatment? Do you monitor what you eat, or is there more an invasive way of treating it?
There are a few questions there. Well, it depends on your ferritin level. It's treated by venesection. Venesection means that your blood is taken. It's called either venesection or phlebotomy. And it's like giving a unit of blood, giving a pint of blood. And every time you give a pint of blood, you lose 250 milligrams of iron. Now, if somebody is diagnosed and they have a very high ferritin level, maybe 800, 1,000, is pretty high, they then may need to have their blood taken every week for a year or two. But if somebody is only slightly raised, they won't have it as often. So the amount of venesections you have depends on how high your ferritin was. And not everybody with the two genes will have raised ferritin to the same extent.
Yeah, so basically your blood is taken away from you to draw off the excess iron.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. And then you have to be careful with what you eat as well. But make sure to have a balanced diet.
Yeah.
And